guys, it's Cindy Leach, your polymer clay tutor, and today we're going to share with you something really cool. Now, you may or may not know, but Doug and I have been working really hard to upgrade our polymer clay tutor website. And one of the really neat things that's going to be in the new site when it launches is our Studio Cam membership. Now, there are some people that are already in this getting Studio Cam video, so you will know about that already. But there's lots of you that have no idea what a Studio Cam video is. And so we thought we would show you a little sampler of those videos today. Now, what the Studio Cam videos are really, they show you exactly what it's like to live in a polymer clay studio. They're raw, they're uncut, they're everyday happenings that happen throughout my daily life. So if I've got new products that I'm bringing in, testing products, trying to figure out a new tutorial, if I've got a project underway, I will come in and I'll turn on my camera and I'll just let it roll. So these videos are messy, they're raw, they're definitely unpolished, but they show you what it's really actually like to create what we create on a daily basis. So we thought it would be neat to share with you just a sample of what a Studio Cam video is like. We've got hours of content already in the Studio Cam videos, but I went and picked one that we thought you might enjoy. So we're going to show that to you today. And today's Studio Cam sampler it's a face-to-face one. I'm discussing one of the really common questions that I get all the time about baking polymer clay, and you may sense I'm a tiny bit frustrated, and I explain why I think this question comes in all the time, and just how I feel about the whole thing. So here is the Studio Cam sampler for you today, and I hope you enjoy. Hi there. Okay, so I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about probably the most common question I ever get is about baking polymer clay. Now, it's the most common question because most of the packaging out there says just a half an hour, like, or some of it even says you bake your clay for 10 minutes. But most of them say, you know, bake for a half an hour for every quarter of an inch or something like that. And I've just answered the last 3 questions on YouTube, and were all to do with they burnt their clay and they can't listen to me because if they bake any longer than 10 minutes, their stuff will get fried, and the package only says 30 minutes, so I don't know what I'm talking about. It's quite frustrating, and the reason is for 2 reasons. First of all, most people don't understand how polymer clay cures. Basically, they're little particles of plastic that have to melt at the right temperature. So if the temperature's too low, they're not going to melt. They'll just stay little particles. And if the temperature's too high, they'll burn. So if it's just the right temperature, then it melts and it sits there kind of like a melted candle. So if you got a candle there, if it's at the right temperature, the pool of wax sort of sits there and it just is molten. And then when it cools down again, it goes back to the hard wax. It's kind of that idea, only just a little bit different. It doesn't get that liquidy or anything, but the particles melt and they bond together. And if it's a bigger piece, or if it takes a certain amount of time for those particles to melt, just like with your candle, you light it and it takes a while before you get that circle of wax happening around the outside edges. If you blow out your candle too soon, it melts only in that first part and that outside edge is too hard, and then it'll start burning down the center of your candle, and then you never really burn the candle properly unless you melt all of the wax right out to the edges. Did you know that? You should, for every inch your candle is in diameter, you should leave it on for an hour. You'll actually get more use out of your candle if you let your candles burn longer. That's the big pillar kind, not the long tapered kind. Anywho, okay, so polymer clay kind of works like that. So if you don't bake it for long enough, only some of the particles will melt, and those are especially the ones on the outside. They'll melt and bond together, but the ones on the inside, deeper in, don't melt yet, and then they're not bonded. So even though it can seem like it's baked properly on the outside, it won't necessarily be properly baked on the inside. And the longer it bakes, the more of those particles melt together, and the stronger the piece is. And so I even bake super, super thin pieces for a full hour so that I know for sure every one of those particles have melted and bonded together. I'm not worried about it being in there for a long time because it's not going to burn as long as it's at the right temperature. So I also know, now this is because I'm a professional and I've learned this over the years, and I've learned this from other clayers that are professionals, that if you have it in for a very long time, there's not a problem. Sometimes the colors will get a little darker if it's in for a really long time, but I've accidentally left pieces in the oven for like 3 hours, and all I got was a little bit darker color, but no burning, no problems. And in fact, the thing was almost rubbery. It was so strong. So, the reason why there's so much frustration is because the companies have two motives for their reasons for putting the information that they do about baking. First motive is they just have a tiny little package. They cannot possibly explain that your oven's probably not the right temperature, and that you need to use an oven thermometer, and blah, 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 blah. So what they do, and they haven't got much space there, so they write the bare minimum. Also, the last thing they want is a whole bunch of complaints from customers. So a little girl, she puts her cute little charm that she worked all afternoon on, she puts it on a metal pan, she throws it in her mom's oven. They put it in for, they think is the right temperature. They bake it and they put it in for an hour, like Cindy said, and then the whole thing gets burnt, and there's like bubbles on it, it gets absolutely burnt and fried to a crisp, and they're sad and they're mad. So that's what happens if the companies told people to bake for an hour, they would be getting so many complaints from upset moms and upset people who had worked really hard on their beautiful pieces, and that they were just all burnt to a crisp. So what they do is they just say a shorter amount of time. It looks like it's baked on the outside. There's less risk of it burning, and then they get less complaints. They don't really care, to be quite honest, whether or not you've got uncured clay on the inside of your piece, because they don't care if you break your pieces. It won't happen immediately, usually, and it looks like it's done. So people just think, oh well, I was too rough on it. It was my fault it broke, that kind of thing. So it's so they're basically just covering their butts, the companies. Plus they didn't have enough room to explain it anyway, so they just put a temperature and a time and left it at that. So So, of course, people are running into problems. They're either leaving their stuff not baked properly and everything's breaking over time, or people quickly make something cute and then they quickly become business people and they just start selling their stuff or teaching or something, and they haven't had the experience or the time to understand that the piece that they're going to sell is going to break if they underbake it. So, and their customers are going to complain to them and then they're upset. So there's been a problem because there's been a miscommunication on how it all works. And so I get loads and loads and loads and loads of the same question over and over and over. Yeah, but the company says, and yeah, if I did what you said, it would burn. And they just don't understand that it's the crazy ovens. I guess over time, I mean, I've even had good ovens that I think the thermostats go on the ovens or something. They just don't read as well over time, or sometimes they're not calibrated properly. And, you know, with a cookie, whether it's 5 or 10 degrees off, it's not going to make that big of a difference. But with polymer clay, you know, it can. So, and another thing I get quite often is people saying, well, I really wish they would tell you the difference between what the temperature would be if you had a gas oven, because everybody has electric, or not everybody has electric, you know. And I have to explain, well, temperature is actually the same whether it's a gas oven or a electric oven. 275 degrees is going to be 275 degrees no matter what kind of oven you're using. So you need an oven thermometer. Oh, I don't need to answer that. So we'll just, hopefully someone else will pick it up. Oh, they did. Good. I'm just going to say that temperature is temperature. It doesn't matter if it's a gas oven or an electric oven. Maybe gas ovens tend to be hotter. I don't know, but if it's 275 in a gas oven and it's 275 in an electric oven, they're the same temperature. So you really need to have an oven thermometer, and you need to check it regularly to make sure that you're staying on temperature. So I don't know, are you still having problems with baking? If you are, make sure to ask the questions you need. Hopefully what I just said makes a little more sense. Hopefully you have an oven thermometer, and hopefully you're having good luck. And if you ever see questions in the threads where people are asking it, do make sure to recommend to people to get an oven thermometer, because that's really basically the issue. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you later. Bye. So I hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, do let us know if you like this video by pressing that like button. And don't forget to subscribe. We've got new videos coming out all the time, and you won't want to miss a thing. All right, we'll see you next time, and bye for now.